All right, so let's talk a little bit about research design types. Your research design type is going to be mentioned in the introduction section of your paper, and you're also going to mention it when you do your presentation of your action research project. This PowerPoint is going to help you identify your research design type or types. You might have one or two, depending on whether your two types of data are collected the same way or in a different fashion. And that'll make a little bit more sense as we go through them. So let's go ahead and go to the first type, which is the unassessed treatment design. This is the only type of research design type that you're not allowed to use, because in this type of design treatment, you try a strategy and then you never collect any data, or you never go back and look to see if the treatment or the strategy worked. So that's the only one that we will not be using for our action research project. Now, when we say strategy or treatment, we're using these interchangeably. And what we mean by that is a strategy or a treatment is a specific instructional practice that you're implementing in order to investigate its effect on the behavior or achievement of an individual or a group. So this is the new thing that you're introducing into your classroom for your action research project. So the first type of research design type that you might use is the single measurement design. Now, when you see here, it'll say we'll be using some T's and some M's. T stands for strategy or treatment, and M stands for measurement or collecting data. So in this one, we're basically introducing a new strategy, and then we're collecting some data based on that strategy. And I encourage you, if this PowerPoint goes a little bit too fast for you, you can go back and replay it. And there's also notes here at the bottom of each slide that also might be helpful. In the one group pre-test, post-test design, in this one, we introduce or we collect some data first, or we take a measurement. Then we introduce the strategy. And then we take some data at the end. We collect some data, or we take another measurement. The next one is the static group comparison design. This time we have two groups. In one of the groups, the strategy is introduced, and then we take some data or take a measurement. The other group never gets the strategy, but they get the same data collected or the same measurement. So for the groups here, you could use two different class periods. You could divide one of your classes into two different groups, or you might be just focusing on two different students. One of the students gets the strategy and the other one does not. The next research design type is the non-equivalent control group. Here we have two groups again. That can be two students, two groups, or one class period divided into two groups. You're going to introduce, first of all, you're going to take a measurement or collect some data. Then you're going to introduce the strategy to one group but not to the other, or you're going to use the strategy with one group and not the other. And then you're going to take the same measurement or collect the same data at the end. The next action research design type is pre-test and post-test control group. It's the exact same as the non-equivalent control group that we just talked about. You'll see the only difference is that there is an R at the beginning, which means that you chose these groups randomly. But other than that, it's the same. You're going to have two groups. One gets the strategy, one does not. And you collect data before and after the strategy to see if the strategy worked. Another way this could be done is if you did two different strategies, like one group got one strategy and one group got the other strategy. But since our class is such a short period of 7 weeks, that doesn't work very well for us. I prefer that you just, whatever strategy you're going to try, you use it with one group but not the other one. Post-test only control group is the next research design type. You'll see that we have two groups again. One gets the strategy, one does not. They're chosen randomly. No data is collected before implementing the strategy, but data is only collected after the strategy. Then you have your interrupted time series. This is not used real often. In this one, there's several data collection points before the strategy is implemented, and then there are several data collection points afterwards. Now, in our week 5 forum, you're going to be asked to share what your research design type or types is or are. And you might have one or two. For example, for one of your pieces of data, you might be doing a student survey, and you might only be doing it after the strategy is implemented. So that would be a single measurement. And your other data collection piece might be a pre-test, and then you're going to implement the strategy, and then you're going to take a post-test. So that one would be one group pre-test, post-test. Or you might be doing the same thing for both of your data collection pieces. It just depends on how you're collecting the data. The next thing we want to go over are some important definitions that that all action researchers need to know. And the first two are validity and reliability. Validity is the extent that an instrument measures what it is supposed to measure. And reliability is the degree to which the instrument yields consistent results. And as always, you can always go back and look at the notes down here if you miss any of this information. So I always think of this of a scale to measure weight. The scale is valid if it actually measures weight instead of measuring something like confidence or something else. Scales are supposed to measure weight, and so it is valid. It's an instrument that measures what it's supposed to measure. Now, ladies, if you're like me, I always give my scale the reliability test. I jump on the scale and it says one number. I jump off. I jump back on and I try it again to make sure it's going to say the same thing. And then I jump off and I jump back on. So that I'm testing to see if my scale is yielding consistent results, and that's reliability. I'm probably the only one that does that. I hate to admit it. Correlation research is the next concept that we need to know. Correlation research explores the degree of relationships between two variables. For example, what is the relationship between gender of a child and their readiness to read? The two variables in that example are gender and readiness to read. So all of our action research projects are therefore going to be an example of correlation research, because we're looking at the relationship between our strategy, the new strategy that we're trying, and the two things affected. For example, maybe I'm trying the effect of a weighted vest on Susie's ability to concentrate and her attendance. So I'm looking at the relationship between the weighted vest and her ability to concentrate is another variable, and her attendance is another variable. So we're going to have in our action research projects, we're going to have an independent variable and a dependent variable. The dependent variable is, the independent variable is what is the variable that is manipulated. So we've been calling that our strategy or our treatment. That is our independent variable. The dependent variable is going to be the two things affected by the strategy or the treatment. So let's look at the example. If we were doing what is the effect of using graphic organizers on reading comprehension scores and confidence of fourth graders, of course, that's a great title because it has our strategy, which is graphic organizers. It has our two things affected, which is our comprehension scores and our confidence, and it has our who, which is our fourth graders. So the independent variable, which is our strategy, is going to be graphic organizers, and the dependent variables that depend on that strategy are going to be comprehension scores and confidence. In this week's forum, you're going to be sharing with each of us your project's independent variable and your two dependent variables. Finally, 3 definitions that we need to know are historical inquiry, ethnographic research, and case study research. And I won't read those to you because you all can read, but for our class, since it's only 7 weeks long, the collection of historic and ethnographic data is going to be kind of not feasible because we don't have a lot of time. But we might use some historical data, and historical data explains the past and its interconnectedness to our present condition. So for your purposes, you might want to look at some student cumulative records or files or attendance records, or another example might be a school profile. So if there's any data that you already have on hand that you can use as one of your data sources, that would be a great idea. I'm also going to upload this PowerPoint just as the PowerPoint without the voiceover. So if you just want to look at the slides and read the notes, you can do that. So good luck determining your research design type. And if you need any help, let me know.